Hello, users, and welcome back to another episode of Above It All, the series where I talk about politics and all the crazy shit going on in the globe. And, so it appears Lula may be going back to prison. For those of you that don't know, the basic story up until now, Lula, former president of Brazil, basically, he was one of the best presidents, if not the best president that the country's ever had. He seems like a great guy. And his successor, Dilma, was basically what it seems to be was illegally impeached, or like it was basically a coup in legal form, and the people running, and I think it was a 2018 election, basically amounted to Lula and Bolsonaro, and Bolsonaro basically tried to get Lula thrown in prison to prevent him from running for the presidency, and succeeded on these false charges by this fake, essentially, investigative firm called the Lava Jato firm, which is apparently Portuguese for car wash. And so essentially Bolsonaro won by default after jailing his opponent that was polling like 30 points ahead of him. And Lula was freed from prison after some new evidence came forward that basically showcased how much of a sham the trial and the charges were. And now some court, now again I'm not a scholar on Brazil's legal system, but a court basically said, no, these charges are valid and you should go back to jail. During a pandemic, mind you, where they're doing like court cases over Zoom calls or whatever the fuck. So it's like they're doing this for a president who's outspoken against the current regime, which is Bolsonaro's pretending like this is like a fucking like a hoax, right? He's like basically just Trump but in Brazil. And this is very daunting, but Lula basically said in response to this, I knew this decision would come. I just hope I'm alive to see them unmasked. And that's one of the things that, again, prisons are really, really hardcore when it comes to coronavirus spreading. Like, I think if you account for, like, individual areas, like, I think, like, New York prisons are the most concentrated as far as COVID contamination and contagion. Like there's like an infection rate that's like several thousand times higher than it is like even in the United States as a whole. So it's like this is an elaborate idea and an elaborate strategy to try to kill this man who, again, I'm not a scholar on Brazil. If anyone knows anything more, feel free to let me know. Give me that kind of channel and give me some more information. But Lula seems to be like really just like the Bernie Sanders equivalent of Brazil, except for the fact that imagine he was president and then the world just kind of crumbled and now he's trying to like restore what semblance of society was in Brazil and is being basically stopped in every way. And Brazil at this point, it seems like Brazil is just falling completely into like the realms of being like a fake country. Like it is completely subservient to the United States. I remember when Bolsonaro visited the United States, he visited directly with the heads of the CIA. Fun fact, I was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And when Bolsonaro visited the United States and went to go see Trump and the CIA, I was part of the counter-protests, and I double middle-fingered Bolsonaro. I gave him the quick X, the middle finger X, and I was in the front of the crowd, and as the motorcade was turning, and as like Bolsonaro was like just looking at the crowds, mostly it was just protesters and a bunch of people going like, oh wow, it's a world leader, oh I'm a tourist, right? So I personally I made what I like to think is eye contact. The windows were really tinted, but I saw his face. I don't know if he was looking at me while I was giving him the double middle finger. So that's my Bolsonaro story. Just throwing that out there. But Bolsonaro is basically just a complete fucking lunatic. He's basically like Trump, but imagine if our institutions had almost no power. Like our institutions have like almost no power, but imagine if they, instead of having almost, they just had almost no power. And that's basically Brazil. It seems to be falling apart at the seams. And again, it's really sad, of course, because like Lula is probably the most electable person as far as the left movement in Brazil, and keeping him in prison and trying to kill him in this kind of roundabout way is really just a way for the United States and Brazil to make a permanent fascist axis. And especially with the United Kingdom having Boris in there for at least 5 years, things aren't looking too good as far as the global left movement. I don't know, man. It's just rough stuff. So if anyone knows anything more about this, feel free to let me know. But I thought this is definitely something that y'all should look into. And I should look into this more as well. Because if Lula does go back to prison, then that sets a bad alarm bells. Because when he was released, that was a moment of celebration. And then Corona hit, and now things are looking like they're just going right back into and of course Lula was released. We thought Bernie was going to be the nominee. Things were looking up, and now look at the world. But this is one of the most important things to having a Bernie Sanders presidency would have been foreign policy, because like it or not, foreign policy is almost all up to whoever the president is. Like for example, Trump can just be best friends with Kim Jong-un, and I mean, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely problematic in a lot of ways. But if we had Bernie Sanders in there, no doubt, Bernie was the only candidate for president, even when there were 38 trillion candidates, that was like, yeah, free Lula. He shouldn't be in prison, and he should be freed. And that just goes to show that we really missed an opportunity here. And maybe it'll still happen. There's like that 0.1% chance. But, just the idea of Bolsonaro would not exist but for Trump. If Trump wasn't elected, Bolsonaro wouldn't be there. Maybe Bolsonaro would have been there in some sort of form if we had some sort of like generic Republican. But if we had Hillary Clinton, I don't think Bolsonaro would exist. I think they would have gotten someone else, or had a different kind of Bolsonaro, like a different temperament or whatever. But just, I don't know, Brazil seems to be not looking so great. And again, if anyone, lives in Brazil or has any direct information, please let me know. It's a country that I'm fascinated by. More and more I learn about it, especially with this whole Lula situation and how the Workers' Party was completely destroyed over like a legal coup. And it's just, it's all around crazy. And so again, watch out if you're in Brazil, do what you need to. I'm very uneducated on that kind of stuff, but try to do everything you can to at least inform your family and friends. And good luck out there, because I know Brazil's not looking so good for the coronavirus. But, not good. Not good. We'll see what happens. For right now, he's still out and about, to my knowledge, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, this is a good tweet. This is a really good tweet. Ugh. Fuck. Bolsonaro is so bad. He really is so bad. He really is just so fucking bad. Ugh. Like, people love to look at Americans online, and it's like, you guys elected Trump. How did that happen? But I mean, imagine being a Brazilian and having this fucking moron as your representation. This guy is just, ugh. I mean, I have a little bit of sympathy and empathy from having Trump be our representation, but Bolsonaro is bad news. Anyway, thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed today's videos. I'm going to be putting out a lot more videos and a lot more stuff. So we'll see how it goes. If you have any specific topics you want me to cover, let me know. If you have news stories, let me know. And I'll see you tomorrow.